Hello, welcome to Power Pantaloons podcast. My name is Tanya. I am your holistic cancer wellness specialist, and today we have cancer survivor Kim Rainier. Oh my gosh.
Rainer.
Welcome to
Bad weather with a
Rainer. There we go. It's not as bad as my name, right? Belargin. Welcome to the show.
It's good to be here today. Thank you for the invitation.
I'm glad to have you. So, what kind of cancer did you have?
I was diagnosed with stage 3C ovarian cancer, and I also had a stint of basal cell carcinoma.
Okay, so two different things or at the
Yeah.
same time?
Two different things, two different times.
Okay, so where do you want to start?
Let's start with ovarian cancer because that's the one that blew the doors off my life.
Blew the doors off my life. That is very aptly summed up.
Yeah, yeah. I think anybody who's had a cancer experience understands that that is exactly what happens. It is exactly what happens.
So
Yeah.
tell us about that.
Okay. So I was a full-time college student when I was diagnosed. I was 48 years old. I had quit my career about 3 years before my diagnosis. After at the end of my dad's life, I was his primary caregiver. That prompted me to leave my career to go into nursing school. And I was really healthy. I was riding my bike 50 to 100 miles a week. That was my main mode of transportation to get back and forth to school. I was exercising. I was engaged in my life. And I went for a regular doctor's appointment and to see my OBGYN. And when I was there, I had mentioned a couple of different symptoms that were different when I would get my period compared to what it had been previously. And because my OBGYN had been my doctor for 22 years, and he knew me, he had been following me for 22 years. My my changes were I used to get constipated on the first days of my period, and I got the diarrhea, which was different. And then there was an odor when I discharged that I was not familiar with previously. And I mentioned it to him, and he said, Kim, it's been a few years since we've done a transvaginal ultrasound. I'm going to send you downstairs to see Colleen. And it's like, okay. So I was about an hour and a half from where I lived. He was down in Milwaukee. I'm up in the Fox Cities in Appleton, and I went. I went downstairs. The ultrasound tech had been my ultrasound tech for 16 years, and
Forever.
right, yeah. So and I had a long history, right? I've had endometriosis. I had polycystic ovarian disease. I had multiple endometrial ablations. I had lots of gynecological issues. And he sent me downstairs to go see her, and she did the ultrasound. And she, when it was done, she said, I'm going to send you back upstairs to see the doc. And it's like, okay. And she gave me a hug, and it's like, okay, that's weird. Colleen, you have never done that. That's weird.
Yep.
And I went upstairs, and he said, it could be nothing. It could be where you are in your cycle. It could be, anything. He says, worst case scenario, it could be ovarian cancer. I want you to go get a blood test. And I said, okay, when? And he said, now. And it's like, oh, okay. So it was in a different location in the city. So I went and got the blood test. And then it was like, well, okay, I don't quite know what to do now because I'm, hour and a half from where I live. And so I went back to his office and I walked in the door and I said, hey, can I talk to the doctor again for just a minute? And she said, sure. And I said, I don't know what to do now. And he said, go home, Kim. I'll call you when I have the results of the blood test. It's like, oh, okay. Because, you hear those words and it's like, well, I don't quite know what to do, and I don't quite know what to do. So,
You're poleaxed.
right. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's like, geez, I don't even know what to do. So I came home and he called me the next day and he said, your CA125, which is cancer antigen 125, if you have ovarian cancer that is elevated in your blood count, it's the only test available for ovarian cancer. And it's not always reliable. Anything above 65 is considered suspect, but it can change based on where you are in your cycle. Anything above 35 is considered suspect. Mine was 65, which was not very far above normal. And, he said, it's elevated, but not a lot. And I said, okay, so if I was your wife, what would you have me do? And he said, I would get the ovary out. And I said, okay, when? And he said, I'll see you next Friday. And it's like, wait, what? And he said, I'll see you next Friday.
Yeah.
So he was really quick to respond to things. So I went down there. They did the oophorectomy, took it out, and sent me home. It was outpatient surgery. Sent me home, and after they, did the biopsies and all of the things that they do with that, he called me and I guess no, I went down there, I guess, for the follow-up appointment, after the surgery. And I'm sitting there, he does the exam and he says, everything's good. And then he says, get dressed. I'll be back in a few minutes. Like, okay. He comes in and he sits down across from me and we're like knee to knee. And I mean, we grew up in his practice together, right? We're about the same age and blah, blah, blah. So he puts his hand on my knee and his eyes get kind of glassy. And it's like, he says, I am so sorry to have to tell you this. I haven't had to tell anybody this for a really long time. And I am so sorry that it's you. He said, it is ovarian cancer, and you are going to meet your gynecological oncologist on Monday, and your hysterectomy is scheduled for Tuesday morning. And it's like, wait, what? What? And so it was literally 16 days from, your ovary has a shadow on it. There's something going on, to
Wow.
full-blown hysterectomy. And because he responded as quickly as he did, I think, there's a big piece of that saved my life. And the fact that he didn't do the
Absolutely.
surgery himself, right? He said, I could do it, but gynecological oncologists do this surgery all the time. And because ovarian cancer is so aggressive, I want to give you the best opportunity that there is for you to be able to survive. So when I'm talking to people about funny bloating and abdominal issues and funky things that are going on, it's like, ask your doctor for a CA 125, and if they don't have a reason for it, don't let them stop looking. If you were a man, they would do a PSA test on you. The CA 125 is as close as we can get to the same kind of thing. So ask them to do the test, and they usually will.
I fully agree with that. Advocate for yourself because nobody else is going to. Even when you have a beautiful doctor that's on the ball, they don't always catch everything.
Right.
And markers are not always in the blood. I mean, usually they are, but it is not a guarantee.
Right.
For me, they actually had to do a DNC to find the cancer. They did the transvaginal ultrasounds, the pap smears, the blood work, the sonohistogram, all of that came back fine or inconclusive.
Yeah.
So if you know something's going on, if there is a change, pursue it to the ends of the earth. Like absolutely, you have to.
Yeah. Yeah. Nobody's going to advocate for you, and nobody knows your body like you know your body. If your doctor is giving you pushback or they're not listening to you, go find a different doctor, because it's
Yep.
your body and nobody's invested in it the way you are,
Right. I like to say that it is a medical practice for a reason.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you live in your body 24/7. So if there's something different and your body is talking to you, listen. It
Yes.
could save your life.
Absolutely. I actually have in my coaching practice, so I'm a life coach as a result of all of this. I didn't get to finish my nursing degree, and I literally have a coaching package called Whispers from Your Body. That is exactly it's designed to help people learn what their bodies are telling them, and to connect the emotional pattern to the physical ailment that you've got, and then to give you some alternatives and options to be able to navigate that. I think the process is
Yes,
part of the
yes,
reason I get to be on the planet. So
absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. When I talk about being grateful for my cancer journey and the gifts that it's given me so that I can give to others, people kind of look at me like I'm a little but yeah, absolutely helping people through their journey because the doctors are there for all of the medical stuff, but there's a whole bunch of not medical stuff that goes along with it, like feeling alone and just and they don't always know what kind of symptoms, not symptoms, side effects that you might end up with because there's just a plethora of them, and Russian roulette on what you get.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that was the most challenging for me was, I mean, when you go through the cancer treatment, right? They tell you where to go, they tell you what to do, they tell you what to wear, they tell you what to eat, they tell you what time to be there. They give you everything that you need. And then all of a sudden you're done with treatment and they hand you back the keys to your life and it's like, dude, I don't even know where you parked my car, much less, you know, how to navigate
Yes.
it or drive it from here. So that really, in some ways for me, the cancer treatment, as hard as it was the easy part. You know, I mean, there was the nausea and there's certainly the residual side effects, I mean, I don't know how it was for you. Well, I do because we've had some conversations, but I know for me, you know, I lost my career. I lost the capacity to work in the world. I lost where I was living. I lost everything. I didn't get to finish my nursing degree. And they said, you know, you got a 30% chance of surviving. So get your affairs in order. And it's like, I don't even know how to navigate this. I don't know what to do with this.
Yes, the abrupt end at the end of treatment is uh,
Right.
dizzying, right? Like because your whole entire everything is planned for however long you're in treatment. So you
Right.
don't have to make any decisions. So you go from a capable adult to a patient,
Right.
and you're shuttled around through your whole experience. And for me, that was almost a year.
Yep.
And then it was ta-da, go be an adult again. And I was like,
Right. That
forgot how to do it, like because I hadn't done it for a year, and it was relearning how to live. And then there's the part, the mental work that you have to do as a person who, like my friend summed it up really very succinctly when he said, well, the thing that defines your femininity tried to murder you. Yes.
right.
And then I had to have all kinds of self-discovery so that I could reconnect with the divine feminine, because it was gone. And that was radical, right? Like because societally we're defined by our uterus, which is absolutely ridiculous. So it's so ingrained in us feminine presenting people that, and it's hard to come back to who am I. And that journey took me 5 years. And now that I'm doing the podcast and talking to other people, I'm realizing that I thought it only took 5 years, but there are still aspects that I still have to work on.
Yeah, I completely understand. I mean, I'm 16 years out post
Me
cancer.
too.
And at 9 years, I was suicidal. I mean, I lost everything. I lost my house. I lost my career. I lost everything, everything I had worked my whole life for up until that point. And that really is how I decided to become a life coach. It's like, I cannot be the only cancer survivor that's experiencing this. So I created a program called Treatments Over What Now? And that is exactly what it's for. It's to help people navigate the process. You know, I like to explain it to people where you're cruising along the river, right? Everything's good. And then you notice, oh my goodness, there's a waterfall on the horizon. Whoa, I'm going over. You plummet down to the bottom. And if you're lucky enough to pop up, right, the river looks really different down here. And I have no idea. I have no idea how to navigate this. The things that I used to hold as truth, you know, my spiritual
Mm,
beliefs, the things that I could depend on with my body and with myself, they didn't work anymore the way that they used to. And I didn't know
yeah.
how to navigate that, didn't know what to do with it. And I couldn't find people as much as as much as the medical world, I mean, they saved my life. I wouldn't be here had I not had all of the things that Western medicine had to offer, the surgeries and the chemo. But that was not without a price. I mean, I can share some of the long-term consequences and some of the things that I've done about it. But while I was going through my treatment, I also have, my sister's partner he's a Chinese herbalist and he is an acupuncturist. And he was a godsend for me into bringing the
Mm,
alternative tools into
yes.
my world. And I was lucky to have an oncologist who, wasn't a curmudgeon about it. I would bring him everything that Timothy gave me and said, this is what he's recommending. And my oncologist would look at it and say, okay, okay, okay. And only one time did he say, don't take this because I think that it's going to interfere with what we're doing with the chemo. So, but everything else he gave his blessing to. And I am so grateful that he listened to me, that he heard me. I really was lucky.
I had an oncologist that I was like, okay, so these are the things I want to do, the aromatherapy or the herbalism, all of this stuff. And he looked at me, he says, as long as you're not putting it in your mouth, I don't care. And I said, so no herbs. And he said, correct. And I said, why? And he said, exactly that, because I'm afraid it will interfere with the chemotherapy. He's like, everything else, I don't care what you do. He kind of rolled his eyes at me, but like that was enough approval for me. Like, so he knew what I was doing
Yeah.
because I think it's paramount that your medical team know what you're doing, your
Right.
mindset, your nutrition, whatever you're doing for that, and what kind of alternative modalities that you are using. And I brought it all in too. I was doing the detoxifying baths and walking barefoot on the grass, and I had my crystal singing bowls and crystals in my bra, and
Yep.
and just like sound healing and
Yeah.
400 plants in my house, like just you don't you like and it just like I just did that, right? Like I went and bought more plants and it was just sort of like a thing, and I look at it now going, I intuitively knew that I needed more oxygen in my space.
Right.
So that is something that I teach, right? Like how to intuitively, your body knows what it wants while it's going through this thing.
It does. It really does. And how do we learn to pay attention to it and not
It's a little
just,
harder.
yeah, how do we do that? I wrote a book that is available for free out on my website. It's called 37 Tools to Help You Heal. And there are some that have to do with, some of the herbs and stuff, but I too was a huge proponent of essential oils. The olfactory system and the connection between your limbic system and your olfactory system is huge. And if we ignore that part of the healing process, and if we don't pay attention to, the energy that's going on in our environment, we do a huge disservice to our healing process. And if we don't address the wounds, the emotional wounds of our past, I think that it really is a big barrier to, or a big component to what causes people to have recurrences. Because if you don't address that, how, yeah, if you don't address it, it's still living in there and energy doesn't get created or destroyed, right? It just changes
This this
form. Yeah.
that
Yeah.
dis-ease
Absolutely.
adds like creates disease, and if you do not address it, you have to do your shadow work or whatever you want to call it. You have to do your emotional healing. uh,
Right.
our we store our traumas in our body, and we need to work through them. And
Right.
sometimes that's hard because you don't know what caused the trauma.
Right. Sometimes we don't, sometimes we do. Right. And
Yeah.
it's still, yeah, it, it takes courage, it takes courage to walk through the process. And, you know, anybody that's had cancer, I think, I don't know, one of the things that always struck me was when we ring the cancer bell. You know how how we do that. And if you look into the eyes of the people that are in the room with the survivor, there's all that, yay, life is going back to normal. And if you look deep into the eyes of the person who's just finishing up treatment, there's this there's this fear that lays right below the surface, right? There's this thing that goes on that so often, hello, this is my familiar.
Yeah.
um, okay, you need to go away. Go on.
No,
Um,
I need to comfort you while you talk about your story.
I know, but he's gonna get up, he'll be staring at you. That yeah, there's a way that I don't know. We need to not. We can't sidestep it. We can't spiritual bypass it. We can't pretend that that stuff doesn't exist. We need to. I needed to. I needed to address it. I needed to deal with it, navigate it.
I didn't ring a cancer bell. That wasn't something that happened in like my treat. Like I didn't go into the chemo room with everybody sitting in chairs and getting chemo together
Oh,
in a community.
yeah.
My my experience with chemotherapy was different because they had to give me rescue drugs before, during, and after. I actually had to be inpatient for my treatments. So I didn't have a community to lean on, other individuals walking the cancer journey at the same time. I had none of that.
Yeah.
And in some ways I think I was better for it. In some ways I think that I was worse for it, but there was no celebration like that at the end of my treatment for me, and I didn't even know it was a thing until much later.
It didn't feel like a celebration. And when I look into the eyes, I mean, there are some survivors that do feel like it's a celebration, but oftentimes if you look, there's that shadow, behind their eyes. And yeah, it's fear. It's fear of what,
Well,
can you
of
get
course.
cancer of the
So
cuticle? Every time there's a change, right? Can you get cancer of this? What is that? Yeah, scanxiety and all the things
I,
that go along with that.
so so I ended up, I had the gynecologist, I had the oncologist, and then I had the radiation oncologist. And the year after I was released back into the wild, I went and saw each of them twice, which was
Mhm.
absolutely ridiculous, right? Like that's six pap smears in a year, just absolutely ridiculous. And at the end of the year, the oncologist is like, okay, so can we go back to one a year? And I was like, absolutely not, but we can do one for each of you this year. And so I slowly weaned myself off of pap smears. Like
Yeah.
nobody volunteers for that, but the fear was so strong.
Yeah.
And for years, almost a decade, every time I had a pap smear on the schedule, I had to have somebody drive me to it because of panic attacks and I'm not being fit to drive a car because I was just
Yeah.
so in my fear. And I think it did take me a decade to ease up on that. And I have a little stuffy Mr. Biggie, and just recently I got to the point where he doesn't have to go to all of my appointments with me anymore. I do take him to gynecological visits, but not every doctor appointment. But for many years, he went everywhere. He went to all
Yeah.
the treatments. He went to all the surgeries. Went to everywhere, like literally everywhere. If I left town, he was in the bag. If I went to dinner, he was flirting with the waiter. Like it just everywhere. My sister's like, "Can you put the damn doll away?" And I'm like, "Absolutely not. I cannot."
Yeah.
And so we learned to live with the stuffed animal with his own little spicy personality, and it was how I navigated my journey. And I with that, I brought other people into my journey. So it was education and comfort. And we as adults are absolutely allowed to have comfort items, whether it's a stuffed animal or it's whatever, right? Like it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And when
Yeah.
you're going through a treatment like a radiation, nobody else can be in that room with you because it's radiation, right? So
Right.
so you have this little stuffed teddy bear with you.
Wow. I didn't have to have radiation. I did 18 rounds of chemo
A
and
lot.
yeah, it is a lot. And the chemos were long lasting throughout the course of the day. I was lucky to have a support network of people just in my environment who were very gracious and very kind. And because I was a college student, I had college student insurance. I did not have insurance that covered stage 3C ovarian cancer. I had insurance that covered, broken clavicles, and because I was a college student and albeit non-traditional, but it was like the process of navigating that and watching what was going on in my life. I described it to people like, this feels like I'm peeling off my skin. That's what this feels like to you. The insecurity and the fear that was every waking moment. And trying to trying I mean, I've been self-sufficient, through my own contribution, self-supporting for most of my life. I was a single mom, from the time my son was 2 years old, and just all of the things that went along with that. And I not being able to earn a living was devastating for me. And my friends, they threw a fundraiser for me, and they would come and clean my house, and they were supporting me in so many amazing ways. And for me to be able to allow them in, to be able to
Hmm.
do that was almost impossible. And in my coaching practice, I talk to people on both sides. I talk to the survivor, and I also talk to the families and the support of the survivors, because it's like, why won't you let me help? And it's like, because you have no idea what this feels like to me, to not be able to do my own dishes or do my laundry, or to be able to drive my car, right? It's like, you don't understand. Yeah.
Learning to let go of that and allow somebody to help you is part of the journey. And
Mhm.
I was super fortunate. I did have health insurance,
Mm.
and I get the explanation of benefits, and I kept a running tally, and I stopped doing that when the insurance company paid out, not was billed, but actually paid out $1 million. I stopped calculating. There's no way I could have afforded that. Like, are you kidding me? Like,
I
and
hear you.
and
I
I
can
was like halfway done with my treatment at that point. So like
I was more than
amazing.
my part of my debt was more than $350,000.
Yeah, I believe that.
Was like, okay, I am done, and there was really a period of time. And these aren't things that you would say to your kid. They're not things that you'd say to your mom or your siblings. But I was so angry at God. It's like, man, most of the time you take people out with what I've got. Why couldn't you just kill me and let it be done? Right? This would have been so much easier if it would have just been here and gone. But man, and what I get today is that we get to be here for a reason, and we don't get to decide. And it really is, walking through that process was so, I don't know, educational. It makes you strong. It makes you powerful. It makes you, right, that stand, right? The Wonder Woman stand where you put your hands on your hips and you spread your feet and you stand there. And it's like, I am a force to be reckoned with. I am
You
a
know I
force to
love
be
the Wonder
reckoned with.
Woman stance.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, dang, I am a force to be reckoned with. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, Wonder Woman got me through my journey completely. Every day I visualized, I put on Wonder Woman's pantaloons. Like that's literally the thing,
Yeah.
because Wonder Woman doesn't die. So that was the physical representation of me actively deciding to live. And some days were a bucket of garbage, and some days were a little better than that.
Yep.
And that was a year of my life. I My sister was my caregiver. Like, my parents came up once a month while I went into the hospital for my chemo. But my sister was my caregiver, and she was so upset she couldn't be there to support me in the hospital, because she was working 16-hour days, because it took disability 4 fucking months to make a payment. So she was working 16-hour days and she wanted to be the one driving me to and so when she had a conversation with me about it, I was like, "Are you kidding me? You're my rock. You're the one making sure that I have a house to live in. You cook dinner. You clean up after me when I can't do it. You hold me accountable when you think I can. They,
Mm.
you are the absolute only thing that's really holding me together. Like, what do you
Right.
mean you're upset? Like, and that was enlightening for both of us, I think, right? Because she wanted to be there for the poopy parts and sit there and hold my hand through all of that. And she couldn't because she was being the adult in the room, making sure all of the adult things happened. And I am eternally grateful that I had that support. And I know that not everybody does. And
Yeah.
it's part of why I do what I do so that I can help provide some of that support, right? Like
Yeah.
the emotional support that you need, the you can do this. I know that sometimes it's real hard to just change your underwear, but you can do this. Um, because I've walked it. I like people want to understand what it's like to have cancer,
Hmm.
but unless you've actually done it,
Right.
you don't. For any circumstance, right? Like you want to be compassionate about a thing, but unless you've actually done the thing, you have no concept of just how brutal it is.
Right. Right. You are so right. It's the way that I describe it to people, as inappropriate as it might sound. It's like, okay, could you as a woman, because mostly I talk to women, I mean, that's just the world that I play in. Could you understand what it would be like? Could your husband or partner describe to you what it would be like to urinate out of a penis? Probably not, right? I have no better chance of describing to you what my cancer journey was like than they would have describing to you what that would feel like, right? I mean, there's some things that you might want to understand this and know this, and I wish that I could help you, and I hope to God that you never have to know.
That's it right there. I
Yeah.
hope to God you never have to know what it was
Mm.
like to do this thing.
Yeah.
But according to the American Cancer Society, the statistic right now is 1 in 2 will have
Right.
some cancer before they die.
Right, right. I agree. I think one of the things that was the most shocking for me, I don't know how it was for you, Tanya, but one of the things that was most shocking for me is in my head, I had these people in my life who I figured, oh, this person was going to be a huge part of my support network, and this person was going to be not so much, right? And so I'm like single mom, right? And I have a son, only child, and he bailed when I was diagnosed. He was still living at home with me, but all the way through my treatment, he was not present. He wouldn't, I mean, he didn't come home. He was hanging out with his friends. I wouldn't see him for days. And I was like, I was heartbroken. It's like, why am I doing this? You are like the reason that I still have to be on the planet. Where are you? And luckily for both of us, we had this amazing relationship where we could really talk about things.
He
But when
couldn't
I
handle
got
it.
sick, yeah, when I got sick, that went away. And it took us about 5 years. I mean, he moved to Montana, like out of my house to Montana. And it took us about 5 years in heated conversations like, where are you? You're breaking my heart. What is wrong with you? And he finally said, Mom, you have been my go-to person for my whole life. And when your go-to person is the person that you have the problem with, there is no place to go for that. And it was easier for me to walk out than it was for me to watch you die one day at a time. And when he gave me that picture,
Yep.
it was like, wow, I can only see this from my perspective. I had no idea what it was like for him. And I I'm so grateful for the conversations that we had. I'm sorry it took us as long as it did to get there, but
But you got there.
yeah, we did. And the families of the survivor, this isn't just isn't the person who has the disease. They're not the only one impacted. It impacts everybody. And the biggest thing is when, when you're done with treatment, the world expects you to step back into life the way life used to be. That bell has rung, that ship has sailed, that
Yep.
door is closed. We are not going back. I am never going to be the Kim that I was on June 6th of 2007. That Kim is gone forever. I will never be that person again.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I, you know, I didn't have an experience like that, right? But I knew there were going to be people that could not cope with what I was given to cope with. And I distanced myself from them for
Mm,
both of our sanity, right? Like I at that time even understood that not everybody has the strength to handle that at that specific time. And relationships sometimes end and sometimes can be reassessed later afterwards. But you know, having having support is tremendous, and your entire mini universe, everybody that is involved to some degree with what's going on in your body, and it becomes an everybody discussion and issue. And being a caregiver can be just as brutal,
absolutely.
or being a loved one can be just as brutal as watching somebody you love fight for their life. Like
Right. Right. Yeah.
it's awful. It's
Yeah.
awful.
Yeah. And how easy it is to step back to that place of feeling for me. I can go back to that space.
Yeah, I'm
And
there. Like I
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah. Energetically, you just feel that when you listen to people, when I listen to people tell their stories, or when I hear, it used to make me crazy that people would tell me, um, you share what your diagnosis is because no hair walking around. It's pretty easy to tell something's going on, and I didn't wear a wig. Um, but people would say, "Oh, I had a blah 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 who had that, and they're dead now." And it's like, okay, I, I don't need to know that.
thanks.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that there's a reason. It's like the pregnant people, right, who are hearing all of the horror stories of labor and delivery.
Yeah,
It's like
like
if you were
why
watching this, stop telling people that they don't need to hear that, right?
why are you telling me that? Th- Thanks. Like
Yeah,
what am I supposed to say to that? Do you
right.
want me to
Yeah,
go lay down and die? Like I
yeah.
what was the whole entire point of saying that to me?
But
Like,
didn't you hear that? Did you? I mean, I got that
yes.
all the time because of,
Yeah.
yeah, because of the kind of cancer. I mean, most people die when they have my kind of cancer, 30% survival, blah blah blah. Yeah, it's like, why would you? Yeah, I think that people don't realize, and the silence is so uncomfortable that I would rather fill the dead air with something, not
Even if it's
realize.
garbage.
Yeah, yeah, and it's not that people set out to do that intentionally. I think that they just really don't know when sometimes what I would really like you to do is just sit in the room with me and be quiet. Just sit and hold the space.
The
Hold the
number
space.
one question that I get asked by loved ones and caregivers is, so what do I do? Uh, the first thing you do is have a conversation with your loved one and ask them what kind of support they need. And they will tell you. And you might be the all around support person. You might be the one that gets a phone call at 3 a.m. to bring over the ice cream. You might be the one that they call to come get them out of the house and drive them around the block because they're tired of looking at the walls. You might be the one that they call because they want to spend some time with you just watching a movie because it's low impact on their body and they just want to spend time with you. You might be because you are the kitchen person and you do all of the beautiful cooking, and they miraculously are hungry for a thing that you specialize. So ask them and have a conversation, because every survivor is different,
Right.
and what works for one might not necessarily work for another one.
Yeah.
So, and I know it's hard, right? Like these are conversations that nobody wants to have, but this is the messy part of life.
Right.
This is the trenches of real life,
Yeah.
communication and growth.
Right.
And the love that you have for that person demands things.
Right. I
And
think
sometimes,
the other thing about that is don't be shocked if they can't tell you what they need. Right? It's
yes,
like I needed something, but I don't know what that is. And my sister was my caregiver too. She was the one. She actually lived in Colorado when I was diagnosed, and she sold her house in Colorado and moved back to Wisconsin as a
wow.
result. Yeah. And she was here through most of my journey. And having somebody in your pocket who just knows. She didn't ask me what I wanted or needed. She saw that the bathroom was dirty and she just cleaned it, or she saw the dishes needed to be done or the laundry needed to be done, and she just did it. It's like I don't have the energy or wherewithal to try and figure out what I want. So if you could just take the burden, that was really helpful too, to have somebody who knew me so well.
Yep.
And yeah, yeah,
If
it's so
if you're
interesting.
if you're close enough, come over, clean something. If you're close enough, come over and clean out the refrigerator and organize the thousands of casseroles that suddenly appeared in the house.
That I can't
Because
eat.
that happens. Um, bring over a pillow or a special blanket or
Carol
whatever.
Burnett, comedy. Carol Burnett. I had a friend who gifted me the whole series of whatever Carol Burnett was printed on, just episode after episode after episode,
He
and
was
the
funny.
ability to laugh. It was stupid funny, just stupid funny, and yeah, so powerful. I think I don't know. Yeah, stupid funny. It's like there's these different segments of the journey, right? There's the live active stuff, and then there's the whole world that happens after. And I don't know how it was for you, but for me, there were significant consequences, right? Neuropathy, cognitive things, changes that, prevented me from being able to go back to work in the world the way that I used to, ocular migraines, bowel incontinence was like, and constipation, bouncing right back and forth between those worlds. It's like, how does that even work? I mean, you can't walk around the block because you poop your pants. And 2 days later, you're giving yourself a coffee enema because you couldn't take a poop if somebody had a gun to your head, right? It's like, how does all of this happen in this ecosystem? What is going on here? And figuring
The
out a way to
whole
navigate that.
biome is completely different. I
Right.
have poopsidents. I still have poopsidents, and it's 16 years later. I have I have a kit. In the kit is a change of clothes, butt wipes, and a fucking candy bar because I need something to cheer me up after I've pooped myself in ShopRite or Walmart or wherever I am. But
I
I no longer let the fact that I might poop myself stop me from doing the things. Yes, it's humiliating, but you know what? Poop happens. And we all
absolutely,
started with poop in our pants. Like,
absolutely.
and if we're lucky, we're going to get back to a point where we're pooping our pants again, right? Like, poop happens.
Right.
There
I
are things that happen to your body that may never go away.
I have to tell you, Tanya, this that is so my coaching practice, right? There's four different components to it. And a part of it is health and nutrition. And I partner with the health and nutrition line that I partner with because of my poop stuff and because of my bowel incontinence and constipation. Now, I am not a doctor, but what I know is if the gut biome can be given the tools it needs to be able to do the job that it innately knows how to do, your body can do miraculous things to heal. And it's been 3.5 years since I have had 3.5 years, maybe a little bit longer than that, since I have had a poop in public episode. Right. And that used to keep me in my house. That used to keep me stuck here. So there are things that can be done and I mean, you were just at an event with Gary Brecka, who's he's
Yes.
an amazing health and nutrition guy. And when we give our bodies the tools that we need, our
Yep.
bodies know what to do. But if we don't address the emotional components of that too, right?
Yes.
It doesn't actually solve the problem. It like does this bypass that's going to recircle around again and show up again.
It's funny that you said that. So like 6 months ago, I was like, all right, well, if I'm coaching people on mindset, I need to fix this part of my mindset. And I went from like, because every time it would happen, I would be very upset. I would cry. It would affect my mood for days. And I was like, that this nonsense, we have to stop that. So now like when my body gives me the signal and it's like, you have 3 seconds, I'm like, no, I don't. I have enough time to get to the bathroom and you're gonna wait. And sometimes that works,
Mhm,
but it's working more now than it
mhm,
did before, right? So it can be part mindset, right? Like instead of
mhm,
being a victim of poop, now
mhm.
I'm fighting back. And absolutely, 10x Health, Gary Brecka stuff. I just became an affiliate for him. He is an amazing human. I met him a year and a half ago, and because of his knowledge and his products, the genetic tests and the blood work, and then getting on all the supplements, I've lost 75 pounds in a year and a half. And I feel better. I have more stamina. It's allowing me to do the things I wasn't able to do before. So yes, Mr. Brecka is amazing.
Yes,
And yeah,
yes.
yeah,
Yeah, I think that finding the path that works, right? I am a huge advocate of the gut health support system because if you can't process the food that you're taking in, your body can't use the nutrients it needs. So finding a way to support the
yes.
body in being able to do that is really important. I think yeah, I appreciate the tools that I've given. My journey with Gary Brecka, I met him at I with the health and nutrition supplements that we offer, right? He is a he he talks about the efficacy and the benefits of using those products and how what we do with our bodies makes a difference. How we treat our bodies, makes a difference. And yeah, mindset is huge. I'm a law of attraction life coach. So same kind of thing, right? You pay attention, garbage in, garbage out. And I don't care
I,
if it's mind, body, garbage in, garbage out.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Kim, I'm going to make sure that we put all of your contact information in the show notes so that people can get in touch with you if they're interested in working with you or want to have a conversation about any of your services or your experiences, right? Like because that that's what we
Yeah,
do.
yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I think that there's one other or maybe a couple other things that I want to just take a second to make sure that we touch on. There are a lot of resources available out there for people who do not have insurance that's going to cover, everything that they need to have done. And I know like the anti-nausea medication, I it was $600 a pill. And
Yep.
I can tell you, I was not I was not paying $600 a pill out of pocket for anti-nausea medication, right? And I threw up a lot, right? That was just the consequence of that. But there is resources and help available if you talk to your medical providers. There
Medical
are
cannabis.
there is well there that might be an option for some people. That was not an option for me. For my own personal reasons, I was not able to do that. But the drug companies, there's a lot of support out there for people
Yes.
where like the chemo drugs, my chemo drugs were more than $5,000 a pop, right? That is a lot of money. And it's like, okay, I don't know how that's going to be paid for because my insurance covered chemo as if it was outpatient and it had $1,000 lifetime aggregate limit. I was like, okay, well, I get one fifth
What?
of what, right? One fifth of one session of chemo, not to mention, right? So
Who
knowing
writes these
what,
insurance plans? I
right?
just
Right. No, but knowing what's available out there, most hospitals have a community care program where they can help people get the support. And if you can get tapped into the right people, they can help you navigate that, which is hugely beneficial. I know that, the pillars of my business is certainly the coaching for the mindset, getting your mind in the right space to be able to heal your body. There's the health and nutrition component. There is a financial component. If I'd have had access to the financial tools that I offer my clients today, I probably wouldn't have lost everything, right? I could have done things differently and it
Yeah,
would have put me in the position that I'm in. And then there's also this way that we end up not being able to or not wanting to step back into our lives, right? So helping people create an entrepreneurial way for them to be able to survive that fits into their mentality and the things that
yeah,
they're interested in is a huge component because there's so much. It's like you throw the pixie sticks up in the air and they're going to fall, and it's like, how do I start picking stuff out of all of this?
yeah,
And if you have people like you, or you have people like me, or other people who are out there helping cancer survivors navigate this, that really is, we get this calling. We get
we
this
do.
calling because it broke us in a certain way. So we help it not break you.
Yeah,
So yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
And another resource that's out there that I didn't even know was a thing is there are nonprofit organizations with volunteers that will drive you to your appointments for
absolutely.
free.
Yep,
I
yep,
was driving myself to radiation appointments, which I mean, if you've had one, you know it's worse than being a drunk driver. And I was doing that because I had no other option and I didn't know about this beautiful service. So, yeah, the more I find out about services, the more I talk about them because I think they're super important.
absolutely. I think the one thing that I would say to any survivor who is bumping into, nope, we can't do this, nope, we can't do that, ask the person that you're talking to if they could please connect you to somebody who might be able to say yes, right?
Yep.
There's a well-known organization that supports, cancer survivors in a lot of different realms. And when I reached out to them for financial support, what the person on the other end of the phone said, oh gosh, you have ovarian cancer. If you had colorectal cancer or breast cancer, we would be able to help you, but we just really don't have funding available for ovarian cancer. And I said, are you really telling me that I have the wrong kind of cancer, so I can't get help from you? And she said, yeah, I'm really sorry, but that is the truth. And it's like, do you realize how ridiculous that
That
sounds?
sounds,
And
yeah.
she said, yeah, she said, but because people don't contribute money to this particular kind of cancer, we have to say no. And it's like, wow, okay. So can you let me talk to somebody who thinks there might be a possibility that somebody could say yes? So just keep asking. Keep
Yes.
asking the question. Don't take no for an answer. Keep asking the question, no matter what realm you're
Right.
in. Keep
Right. Well,
asking the
if
question.
you don't ask, the answer is definitely no.
Always. Always. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, Kim. I really appreciate having you here today. This conversation has been amazing, and I will make sure that all of your information gets into the show notes. So, thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tanya. It has been a great opportunity and a delight to talk to you as always. As
Thank you.
always. Yeah. Thank you.
Till next time, Cancer Warriors.
Until next time.